Hello, this is Chris, Magic Online username RexDart, and I'm here to show you the deck that I played in the Tribal Apocalypse Player Run event on August the 3rd of 2012. Um, this is a Nomads deck. Nomads are a tribe from the Odyssey block here. A lot of them have the threshold mechanic. As you see there, threshold is an old mechanic. If you had 7 or more cards in your graveyard, they get a boost. And they had various ways to enable this back during the block. One of them you can see here, Tireless Tribe lets you discard a card to give it +0/+4, usually used to just dump things that you want to be in the graveyard into your graveyard. Um, this one is sort of a mid-rangey control deck. I'm going to go through some of it. It's pretty straightforward. The tireless tribes were really underperforming, I felt, in the event. I didn't really like them in practice either, but there's not really anything else you can put in there that's a good low drop that has much effect on the board, and occasionally it can hold something off. And there are a couple of small synergies with them in the support cards for the deck. Obviously, the Tribal Legacy Wars format, you're required to have 20 creatures of the same type. Your spell slots are pretty limited, and so you'll see some of the synergies that I put in here. D2 Slinger, pretty good Urza's block guy here. He has Echo, so you have to pay 2 and a red the turn after he comes into play, or else he goes into the graveyard. But in a Threshold deck, that's actually not all that bad. What he does is he comes down, he does 2 damage to a creature or player. So he's a 2-for-1. Of course, you'd have to pay for his Echo to keep him around, but he might be able to block and trade with something on the opponent's turn. Worst case scenario, you don't pay it, he goes into your graveyard, gets you closer to the 7 cards. Mr. Crusader, very relevant protections here, black and red. Again, he turns into a 3/2 flyer once you get to Threshold, so he becomes a pretty relevant threat at that point. Avalanche Riders really help the sort of the control aspect of this deck here. They look like an aggro card. They're a 2/2 haste, destroys a land. I mean, really, that's more of a control ability, in my opinion. What you're doing there is you're keeping the opponent off of a color. You might be able to mana screw him. Certainly, if you're on the play, if he's a more mid-rangey deck, you might be able to hang him up. If he's a big mana control deck or something using Glimmer Posts or something along those lines, you're taking him off a key land there. And of course, if you don't pay his Echo cost, he goes into the graveyard the following turn, but the damage has already been done. You've got a couple of damage in, and you've blown up a land. And of course, it's any land, not just a non-basic. And again, the Echo guys here going into the graveyard, filling your threshold, is, while not necessarily what you always want to happen, a nice side effect that at least you get that bonus out of it. The finisher is Mystic Enforcer. Again, you can see he costs 4. He is a 3/3 normally with protection from black, which again, pretty relevant protection. Much more recently, when I designed this deck, it was very common to see assassins in the endangered event. And I should say this is for the endangered event. For those of you not familiar with it, you have to play a tribe that has 50 or less total members that are available on Magic the Gathering Online. And one of the more popular ones to play for a long time was Assassins, who of course are black or nearly mono black, and majority of their removal is. So that makes black a very relevant protection. The most relevant protection in the format is probably white, because everybody, myself included, tends to jam 4-sword Plowshares in every deck that they build. But if protection for white is not available in the tribe that you're building, black is pretty darn good as well. Anyways, this guy is sort of the finisher in this sort of odd mid-range control deck. As you'll see from the support cards, I'm basically trying to go over the top of the smaller decks, take out all of their guys, get to the point where I would have Threshold, and then close out the game within a couple of turns, swinging with this guy, a 6/6 flyer. Not a lot of people are going to be able to handle that one if they don't just have some removal sitting in the bank for them. Now look at the support cards here. Faithless Looting, that is a basically an enabler for the threshold. It obviously helps me filter. I'm running 24 lands in this one, which is probably more than I usually run. I'd like to build decks that usually run off of 22 to 23 at most. I can filter away some of those extra lands. And while I'm doing that, build towards threshold. I also, incidentally, off of this, might occasionally be able to cast a violent eruption off of the madness and sort of get me to card parity and sort of instead of the natural card disadvantage you get from a faithless looting. The removal suite here, pretty standard. 4 Swords to Plowshares, 4 Lightning Bolt. I would have to say that as far as spells goes, if you look at the statistics for the year, the most commonly played white spell in Tribal Apocalypse Player Run event is Swords to Plowshares, and the most popularly played red spell is Lightning Bolt. They are ubiquitous and everywhere in the format just because they are that good. So I've got my removal suite here for all their small guys. Violent Eruption, sort of a pyrotechnics effect you get here. You can split 4 damage among any number of target creatures and or players. So you can use that as a finisher, go into the face on occasion if you need to, or just put the extra damage or 2 that isn't going to a guy to the face. I've really enjoyed using this one here. Again, it has madness, so you can cast it off of a tireless tribe for 1 mana less in a pinch if you need to. You also, of course this would have 4 mana open anyways, but if you cast a Faithless Looting and discarded a Violent Eruption that turn, it would cost the same mana as just casting the Eruption, and of course you get a benefit off of one of the discarded cards. Finally here, one of my all-time favorite cards, Anger. Anger, as long as it's in your graveyard and you have a mountain, which includes all the dual lands that we'll see here in a minute, all your creatures have haste. What I've always found of this is, not only is it a good thing to discard off of Faithless Looting that gets you a nice little benefit, it just lets you close out the games a little quicker. It makes all your guys a little more relevant. It blanks a lot of their sorcery speed removals, such as Oblivion Rings and things like that tend to get commonly played in the Tribal Legacy Wars format. Again, there's nothing quite like a Mystic Enforcer coming down. If you need to get aggressive, Mystic Enforcer coming down turn 4 and swinging as a 6/6 flyer right away is just about as aggressive as you're going to get. The mana base here, I did not own all of the original dual lands for these colors. So I had to improvise with some of these Ravnica duals instead of the appropriate ones. Because it's a threshold deck, you really want to be using these fetch lands. And I mean, it's not only the best legacy mana base period to use fetch lands and duels. I mean, there are reasons to deviate from it, but certainly this is not one of them, where you want to have cards like this into your graveyard, stocking up your graveyard, getting to threshold. Obviously, I've got 8 of these fetch lands in here. I've included 6 of the Plateau and Sacred Foundry, because those are the primary colors. Green is just a splash. I'm splashing the green off of the Taiga and the 2 Stomping Grounds. The Wasteland, it's just anytime you can put it in a legacy deck. You know, a lot of people use Glimmer Post, that kind of Cloud Post engine to stock up to big mana spells. It's very useful there. Not very useful against some of the budget or monocolor lists that people do run, and there it's just a dead card a lot of the time. But when it's good, it's good, and here it's especially good because, again, you're getting 1 more card into your graveyard to work towards threshold, and the Wasteland combined with the Avalanche Riders can work sort of a mana denial plan here to stop them from anything that they can deploy. You can take out with your cheap removal and then go over the top with the finisher here. And then the rest of this mana base is just a basic in case I have an opponent with Wastelands and Caracas, because, you know, Mize, there's always somebody who's going to try to slip some ridiculous creature in from the graveyard or show and tell or something along those lines. Anyways, pretty straightforward deck this time, and I'm going to go ahead and show 1 match. That'll be in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed my little tour of the deck here. Thank you.